My name is Roberta Ervine. I'm professor of Armenian Christian Studies at St. Narcisse Armenian Seminary in Armonk, New York. We have a very long-standing and warm relationship with St. Vladimir's Orthodox Theological Seminary, not far away in Yonkers, New York. And it's been one of the joys of my life to try and bring people the Holy Land when they don't actually have the opportunity to go to the Holy Land. So I am very excited about this event that's upcoming, and especially because I'll be working with Arpi Nakashian, with whom I also have a very long and fruitful relationship. Arpi?
Thank you, Dr. Ervine. So I am the Chief Program Officer at St. Narcisse Armenian Seminary, and I am also the online education consultant at St. Vladimir's Orthodox Theological Seminary. I was born and raised in Jerusalem, in the Holy Land, and I actually met Dr. Ervine when I wasn't even a year old, when I was a newborn in Jerusalem. She has taught many of my friends and my parents' generation at the local Armenian school as well. So it actually is an honor for me to be a part of this with Dr. Ervine. And in fact, she has taught me about Jerusalem, even though I was born and raised there, about the holy sites and everything else. So it's very exciting to bring Jerusalem to Massachusetts and have many of our Orthodox women join us on this blessed journey.
I am really excited and thrilled actually about this pilgrimage because it's very easy in these days when the Middle East is once again in unrest, once again in uncertainty, where the Christian communities in the Holy Land are living a precarious life of great faith, that we should have the opportunity to share as much as we can of that life with people who, although they may not be able to physically visit the Holy Land at this point, are, like Axia women, very much involved.
We call it the Holy Land, but it definitely is quite an eventful land, as I may say. And this isn't something new. The Holy Land has always been a place of chaos, although in many of the stories we do see calmness, miracles happening, and joy being present in different parts of the Holy Land, and that still stands until today. Unfortunately, for political reasons, some may not be able to go all the way to those holy sacred sites, but that's not the only reason that people aren't able to go. There are other reasons, for example, financial reasons. That's always been the case throughout the centuries. Health reasons, especially in the early centuries where people had to travel by foot to go to the Holy Land. And even today, right, the pressure on the plane is quite difficult for some people. So Dr. Ervine and I have always thought of the idea to kind of use current technology to bring the Holy Land to the people who aren't able to go. Or for some people who are interested in going, but would like to have prior education, kind of a pre-pilgrimage to attend those holy sites to kind of grasp it even more when we're there.
Mhm.
For example, many of those holy sites are packed with tourists when the kind of the political aspect of the Holy Land is fine. And there's a lot of noise, and you're not able to hear your guide or priest to kind of give you the information because you're far in the back. So this kind of gives you an outline of what to expect in the Holy Land. And that's another aspect of this pilgrimage that we're kind of trying to tackle.
Mhm. Also, there aren't very many pilgrimages out there that view the Holy Land through a woman's eyes. Most pilgrimages are told in the, and this is perfectly fine, obviously, that we follow in the footsteps of Jesus. But the people who first followed in the footsteps of Jesus were the women who followed him. and their view of things, their way of interacting with him, with each other, was very different, I think. There are so many traditions about the women who were around Jesus that don't come up in the Bible, but that have that ring of maybe not factual truth entirely, but psychological and spiritual truth. And I think to walk not in the footsteps of Jesus exactly, but maybe behind Jesus, to walk in such a way that we can view what he is doing, not through disembodied eyes of faith. It's very easy to turn a Christian pilgrimage into a conceptual thing. So we stop in Bethlehem and we understand the nativity. Well, no, we don't. we understand what we think the nativity is. So what we hope to be able to do with this pilgrimage, and God willing, one day we'll be able to do it in person, actually, is to have more of that physical, inquiring, uncertain, faithful relationship with the sites that these women had. They were very familiar with the places where Jesus walked. They'd been to them many times, but to follow him there was to see it with new eyes. To be there was to become a new person. And that's what we hope for this pilgrimage retreat, that there'll be some of that.
And on that note, so how are we going to be able to do this in Massachusetts, right? So we will be using various types of technology, various types of media to kind of introduce you and take you on this path. And we will have videos, pictures, all embedded in a presentation. But the core of this, of course, is going to be biblical, right? We're going to have that at hand with us, and we're going to try to establish that connection that pilgrims have with one another, that bond that is created, that we see and we find each other on a spiritual level when we go on pilgrimages. It's not the basic kind of a friendship that we create when we go on a trip. This is a different kind of an understanding, not only between us and the holy sites and our God, but also with one another. And that's another layer of that pilgrimage that we're kind of trying to establish at this retreat.
Mm-hmm. And hopefully also some of the excitement that the women who followed Jesus experienced when they began to realize how what they already knew from their Jewish tradition was being fulfilled in front of their eyes. So what were they expecting? Why were they expecting it? How did it change? What did they really find?
Yeah. And thinking of it is that they were a group as well, right?
Mm-hmm.
They were on some kind of a pilgrimage themselves following Jesus. So what was their bond like with one another? How did they go to the tomb of Christ together, right? To do their task, their what they had to do as their custom at the time. So they took those steps, and what the Bible tells us, what the Gospels tell us is just what they did during that time. So we're trying to establish that here in at this retreat, and hopefully as we go together in the future, while the political environment is better in Jerusalem, we will be able to physically take those steps as well.
Yeah, and those steps require courage. And basically, faith is courage. You step out not knowing what you're doing, not knowing exactly where you're going, just knowing that it has to happen, it has to be done. I think a little bit of how intimate this group becomes depends on the group. Depends on a certain amount of openness, a certain willingness to step beyond what one is actually seeing at the moment, which won't be the holy places themselves, and to put oneself in that situation. How much are we looking on a pilgrimage to confirm what we already know, and how much are we looking on a pilgrimage to learn more than we already know and to be open to developing our faith courage? I think the intimacy of a group depends a bit on that.
Yes, and as we know, as Orthodox, we love communal events. We love communal liturgy, right? And the act that these women did at the time was a communal effort. It wasn't only an individual
Yeah.
kind of a endeavor. So that is another point that we will try to bring out, and hopefully the women who are going to be part of this retreat pilgrimage and eventually the actual physical pilgrimage in the future will have that openness to them, that they will be accepting this as a communal effort and take those into their own parishes, into their own lives.
Yeah, openness to one another is really important. I know in our culture, we tend to stand apart from one another. We tend to be a little bit competitive with one another. And that there was an element of that also among the women who followed Jesus, as we'll see. But overall, they were open to collaborating and to cooperating and to sharing experiences on a very deep level. And perhaps that will come out of this group as well. Why would an Orthodox woman want to join us on this retreat? Why would an Orthodox woman not want to join us on this retreat? I know that not everyone has the opportunity, but this is perhaps the only time that some people will have to create this kind of an experience, to experience this kind of an experience, to put it that way, and to take at least a little step. You're not going overseas. You're not taking undue risks, but to take those risks spiritually with a group of people you may have never met, but whom you will probably know rather well by the end of 2 days.
Yes, and there are so many videos and pictures, stories and articles about the Holy Land
Mm.
that you can find on your phones, right? And it's very easy for people to get misled with misinformation about what those sites are, what those biblical stories mean. And hopefully, we are trying to create a credible itinerary that is for Orthodox women, by Orthodox women, so that we will have our perspective and what it truly means to visiting these sites, whether it's physical or kind of a virtual way that we're trying to do during this retreat. And we're hoping to be that credible source in this chaos of information of what it truly means for an Orthodox woman to take part in a pilgrimage, to participate in a pilgrimage.
And building on what Arpi just said, there is like huge quantity of information, beautiful pictures. I mean, you can go down a rabbit hole for days on this, and we have, and we will continue to do so. But the temptation with all of that, wonderful though it is that it does become again an individual experience, and that is not the Orthodox way. So we would rather try the Orthodox way together with you. Thank you to Oxia Women for putting together this retreat, and we look forward very much to seeing all of you there.